Welcome to Catholic Charities' weekly presentations on employment strategies and tips and financial literacy. I'm Jacob Chichuk, and I'm one of the employment specialists here at Catholic Charities Kansas City St. Joseph. In today's presentation, I'm going to be discussing about personal brand and what it is and what it's used for. And a personal brand is going to be about who you are, what you're capable of, and what makes you valuable. All right, what is personal branding and how do we develop it? So personal branding is the conscious and intentional effort to create and influence public perception of an individual by positioning them as an authority in their industry, elevating their credibility, and differentiating themselves from the competition to ultimately advance their career, increase their circle of influence, and have a larger impact. But what do they mean by this definition of personal branding? What they mean is that personal branding is essentially a sales pitch about yourself. And the whole idea of personal branding is it's who you are, what you stand for, the values you embrace, and the way in which you express those values. So now it's time to discuss how you develop your personal brand. And there are 9 tips that you can actually utilize that's going to help you start really honing in on your personal brand. And those 9 tips are: 1, figure out who you are. 2, determine what you want to be known for. 3, define your audience. 4, research your desired industry and follow the experts. 5, prepare an elevator pitch. 6, embrace networking. 7, ask for recommendations. 8, grow your online presence. And 9, remember that your personal brand isn't just online. Okay, now the first tip is figuring out who you are. And some may actually find this being one of the hardest things to do because this is where you're going to really have to dive into figuring out about yourself. And by that, it's wanting you to create strengths and weaknesses and create a list of those strengths and weaknesses. And you just have to really find out what areas you excel at, what motivates you, what have others commented on you, or even roles that drain you. And then you'll really be able to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And if you are struggling with doing that by yourself, go ahead and ask friends, family, and even coworkers to describe you. And sometimes that'll give you a better understanding on how others view you. And remember, your personal brand is going to change as your career grows. So don't just focus on where you're at right now, focus on big picture. Next tip is you need to determine what you want to be known for. And so by this is where you're going to start assessing your strengths and weaknesses. And when you are assessing those strengths and weaknesses, what you really want to look at is how they relate to whatever industry or career that you're wanting to go into. And when you do that, you're going to start uncovering different skills and traits that make you distinct, as well as determine areas that you need to improve on. Tip 3, define your audience. In defining your audience, your main goal is to figure out who you want to reach with your personal brand. And this could be other industry leaders, an individual at a particular company, or even recruiters. And your personal brand can actually be online as well. And one of those tools that you can put your personal brand on is something called LinkedIn. And recruiters like to use LinkedIn a lot. And 92% of recruiters leverage social media to find high quality candidates. And so of those, 87% use LinkedIn, which is why putting your personal brand on LinkedIn is going to be really beneficial if you're trying to get your personal brand out to recruiters. And once you know where you're trying to put your personal brand out to, that's when it's going to be easier to craft your story, easier to figure out where you need to tell it, and what kind of story you need to tell. Research your desired industry and follow the experts. In this tip, what it's wanting you to do is research experts in the roles that you want. So if you want to be a vice president of a company, go ahead and start looking for people in those roles and really dive into who's been successful at those roles. And once you've found the successful ones, you want to figure out what they're doing, imitate that, and then do it better. Because your goal is to stand out, and what better way to do that than to know who's already there and know how they're doing things and start doing it better than they are. Prepare an elevator pitch. Now, this is where your personal brand has really started to develop and come together. And so you're ready to start creating your elevator pitch. And your elevator pitch just needs to be 30 to 60 seconds long. You want to keep it brief and talk about what shapes your attributes. Now, this could be that you're looking for a new position, strengths in something specific, and even if you've recently increased the value of your current department or company. Next is embrace networking. And networking is probably the most important way to start growing and continue to grow your professional circle. And what networking is going out of your way to talking with people within the industry that you're interested in, or even an industry that you have no idea about, but you are curious to learn more about. And so networking is really important to not just grow your professional circle, but also to get possible knowledge of opportunities that there is out there. Because when you're networking with somebody, they may start telling you, hey, I have an opportunity, you should apply, or hey, I'll be a referral for you, all because you networked with them, all because you were talking with them and you had a conversation with them. And the more connections that you make, the more value you are able to provide within those interactions. Another important tip for your personal brand is to ask for recommendations. And I just talked about networking and how networking you can get recommendations or referrals from people that you talk with. And it's really important that you get those recommendations, or at least try to, because they could be people in the industry that you are trying to get a job in. Another place that you can get recommendations from are from former colleagues and managers. And this is going to be your best way to define your personal brand. And what a recommendation really entails is it's a review about you. So your colleagues and your managers that you used to work with or work under are going to essentially give a review about you. So it's going to be them saying that you did something really well at, or maybe there's something that you needed to work on. But remember, it's a review about you. And then you can also take that recommendation and start creating your personal brand as well, because they're going to provide you what they think your strengths are and what they think your weaknesses are. Another good way that you can get recommendations is through LinkedIn. The only thing on LinkedIn is it's called endorsements, and you want to ask for endorsements as well on LinkedIn. And when you ask for endorsements, also ask them to be a recommendation in your job search. So endorsements are great for LinkedIn, but it doesn't go to a recommendation for like a job. So you still have to ask for a recommendation for that person that is endorsing you. And just a common courtesy, if somebody's endorsing you, try to see if you can endorse them as well on LinkedIn. Next is grow your online presence. And what we mean by growing your online presence is you need to have a decent looking online profile if you have an account with a job searching site such as Monster.com or ZipRecruiter, or even if you have a LinkedIn profile. And it's important because this is what hiring managers, coworkers, and even other people in the industry are going to see, and it needs to be engaging and look good. And what we mean by look good is it needs to have 4 key facts. And those 4 key facts are, it needs to focus on key industry skills. You need to quantify your accomplishments, make sure your profile is completed, and also use a professional photo. And as long as those 4 key facts are hit in your online presence, you're going to look really good towards any hiring managers or coworkers. And usually that really helps you in getting a job. Lastly, remember that your personal brand isn't just online. Your personal brand you're going to use really in your everyday life. So it's how you carry yourself at home, at work, or even on your commute. And the most important thing about your personal brand is you want to express it every time that you're interviewing for a job. Because remember, your personal brand is the perfect sales pitch about yourself. When you utilize your personal brand in an interview, you're giving yourself a higher chance of getting the job than somebody else who didn't use their personal brand. To conclude, a personal brand is essentially a sales pitch about yourself. It is a way to show employers how you stand out from other applicants. Once you have found your personal brand, it can be the reason that you get hired even if you don't fit all the qualifications. But remember, your personal brand will never be completely finished, as you will need to adapt it to fit your career life as it changes. Again, my name is Jacob Chichuk, and if you have any questions and want to learn more about employment services or financial literacy, feel free to reach out to myself or Catholic Charities, as we are ready to help you get in the right direction.